Scottie Scheffler, two-time Masters champion and current world #1 in the PGA, but is he really that good? Welcome back to the Green Means Go channel. It's your host, me, and we're going to have a little fun today. At least I think it's fun. I love thinking exercises. I love debates. I used to be a teacher, an English teacher, a debate teacher, and I realized that not every debate has a definite answer, and I think sometimes debating and having these arguments is a good way that we can learn new information. So I will come to a conclusion at the end of this, but just know that the conclusion is less important than the journey. Now, look. I need to acknowledge my my bias on this show, okay? I have a bit of a hater past. These are my two probably most haterish videos that I've made. The first that I made was about the Colorado Buffaloes, and I was mainly frustrated at the fact that they were getting hype as a football team that I didn't think they deserved. They had played an underwhelming schedule at the start of the year, and they had good results, but I looked at their schedule and I said, as this gets deeper into the season, they're going to struggle against these teams. People were talking about Heisman trophies. People were talking about college football playoff. People were talking about top team in the nation, and that's what drove me nuts. I think Deion Sanders is a fantastic coach. I think he's changing the program around. He's changing college football around. I think he's doing a marvelous job. But after 3 weeks last year, I was not ready to give out any trophies to anyone on that team. I was not ready to put them in the college football playoff. So that was the purpose of that video, and I think I was fairly accurate in my understanding of that team. Now, this Patrick Mahomes one, I was wrong, okay? The main point I was trying to say is Andy Reid and the system around Patrick Mahomes elevates his play. And I would like to see him go to another system and see if he is as dominant as we saw Brady be in another system and Manning be in another system. Okay, both won or went to 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams. I want to see Patrick Mahomes do the same thing. Now, I realize that that is outside of my control, but that was the premise of that video. That one made a lot of people mad. I get it. The bottom line is I hate undeserved hype. When things are getting hyped, and I don't value them the same. Okay, I don't. My measuring stick is shorter for them. That's what frustrates me. So, what's the point of this video? What's the point of this video about Scottie Scheffler? And how did this brainchild, okay, this video even come to be? All right. I was thinking about his dominance in the last year, we'll call it. And I thought, why is it that he is having so much success? And I couldn't help but think about LIV, okay? LIV, if you do not know, is a golf organization that is rivaling the PGA. Now, they are working together. They have worked out sort of an agreement where they can coexist, but ultimately it is a competitor league for the PGA. LIV is the Roman numerals for 54, and it is that stands for how many holes they play in tournaments. PGA events are 72 holes or 4 rounds. LIV is 3 rounds or 54 holes. So a lot of PGA players, and we'll talk about this in a second, leave the PGA to go play for LIV. Scottie stays on the PGA and has been dominant. And so my question is, without the presence of LIV, without former PGA pros leaving, would Scheffler be as dominant as he currently is? If everybody in LIV played for the PGA, would Scheffler still be this dominant? So that is my question. That is what spawned this whole entire thing. So when did LIV begin? That is important to unpack as we get into the timeline of how this all plays out. June of 2022. So right now it is April of 2024. So we're still infancy. LIV is still in its infancy, 2 years. These were some of the guys who left the PGA for LIV. Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, Sergio Garcia, Phil Mickelson, John Rahm, Bubba Watson, and about 40 others. So that is a sizable chunk of players who left the PGA. And if we look at the 2021 FedEx Cup ranking, so this would be the year before LIV took off, before people left for LIV. These were the rankings. Anybody who is red ended up leaving for LIV. So if we look, I believe this is the top 20. You can count them. I think it's 28. Close to half. I don't think it's quite 28, but close to half are red, which means that half of the top 20 golfers, 25 golfers, ended up leaving for this other organization. Now, Daniel Berger is yellow because he fell off the face of the earth. Nobody knows where he went. He is just now starting to emerge again. He had some back issues. He had some injury issues, and he did not continue to play for the PGA. He also didn't go to LIV. So that's why he is yellow. And of course, we have Scottie Scheffler here. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players who were ranked above Scottie in 2021 who ended up joining LIV. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, yes, Scottie is dominant, period, because I see that a lot of his competition is no longer competing against him. So let's look at his PGA history. He starts in the PGA in 2019, 2020. He plays 23 events, no wins, no runner-ups, 7 top 10s, 13 top 25s, 18 of 23 cuts made, which is really, really good. And he finishes 5th in the FedEx Cup rankings. So winning PGA Rookie of the Year, that's awesome. Okay, that sets the table for success, and I cannot deny that. In 2020 and 2021, now you also have to keep in mind, like, there should be an asterisk beside some of these just because, like, COVID is existing, and COVID threw a lot of things off. And I know golf was one of the few sports that actually could continue in the same capacity because of how socially distanced it naturally is. It's outside, but it still was not as it is today and as it was before. So in 2020, 2021, he plays 29 events, 1 runner-up, 8 top 10s, 16 top 25s, makes a ton of cuts again, 24 out of 29, and finishes 22nd. So this is all pre-LIV. This is all before his competition leaves. Now, I believe in making the soundest arguments that I can. I believe in bringing up counterpoints to my own argument as I see them. You can argue that he was young, right? You're comparing a young Scottie, an inexperienced Scottie, a rookie and sophomore Scottie to Scottie now. It's not a fair comparison. Yes, his competition leaves, but yes, he was also young. Both can coexist. So I understand that it's a give and a take in that way. 2021 and 2022 is weird because LIV would start in the middle of this season, okay? And it throws some things off. So at the start of this year, people were gearing up to make a decision about leaving. He plays 25 events. He wins 4 second places, 11 top 10s, second in FedEx Cup rankings, 18 top 25s, 21 cuts made. He dominates compared to these years, right? So he finishes 22nd the year before LIV is really established. The year that LIV is established, he dominates, which is interesting to me. Like, it has to be stated. Now, he did win 4 of 6 events to start the year, and a lot of those events, there were still LIV players finishing up their PGA career. Like, some of these were in April and May, and I believe this was when he won the Masters. Yes, this would have been the year he won the Masters. Okay, so he won the Masters, I believe, was his 4th win of the year, and that's early in the season. So he was beating LIV guys at that time, but there were some LIV guys who had already dropped out, who maybe had their eyes on a bigger prize, who knew they were going to be transitioning in June. So a little bit of a caveat with that. Still a dominant year, still an awesome year, at least at the beginning. Last year was his first full year with no LIV. I mean, just like this is Scottie on PGA. This is as comparable as we can make it to this year. 23 events played, 2 wins, 2 runner-ups, 17 top 10s. So 17 out of 23, only 6 events did he not get top 10. 21 top 5s. So only 2 times did he finish outside the top 25. He made every single cut. And this is where I start to, and he finishes 6th in FedEx Cup rankings. This is where I start to question. Has his 3 years of experience made him that much better of a golfer? Or has the absence of competition allowed him to be this dominant? Yes, I think yes is a fine answer for both. And I don't want to spoil my conclusion at the end, but I do think both can be true. Scottie can be this good, and the presence of LIV can help Scottie look this dominant. So if you're just comparing numbers and if you're not adding any nuance to the argument, he was much more dominant when LIV was in its full swing, no pun intended. So this year so far, 9 events, 3 wins. That's insane. 1 runner-up, 8 top 10. So only 1 time this year as he finished outside the top 10, but he's still in 20. He still finished 25th. He's made every cut. Scottie is obliterating the PGA right now. This is nuts, and we have not seen this in a while. When I think about growing up watching golf, like, sure, Dustin Johnson had his moments. Sure, Jordan Spieth had a really strong run at the beginning. But you have to go back to Tiger Woods before you really think about somebody doing something this masterful, okay? No pun intended, this dominant. Let's look at some facts, though, because I think this will help draw it away from competition and more put weapons back in his bag, so to speak. In 2024, so this year, he has played 35 rounds of golf. His worst score is a 72. So his worst score of 35 rounds is par. That was on a windy Friday at Augusta, one of the harder premier courses on the PGA Tour. The wind was horrible. I was watching it. The wind was horrible, and he shoots par. He's averaging 67.5 strokes in 2024, or about 5 strokes under par per 18. LIV or not, that's dominant, right? Like the presence of Dustin Johnson, Jon Rahm, and Brooks Koepka does not influence his scoring. So I will give him that. He has not had a round over par in 232 days. This year, in 2024, he has faced 934 different opponents, okay? Only 37 have finished ahead of him in 9 events. I guess those won't be different opponents. They would be some repeat opponents. But only 37 have ever finished ahead of him in 9 events. That is unheard of. Okay, there are just like he's mopping the floor with everybody. Okay, strokes gained is something we need to talk about real quick. The PGA has been tracking every shot with GPS, with lasers, with every metric under the sun, and comparing how every golfer does with that shot based on their make and their final score on the hole. So take an 8-foot putt, for example. This is my example for this. The data says that a PGA player has a 50% chance over the last decade, okay, to make an 8-foot putt. When there is an 8-foot putt, over thousands and thousands and thousands of data points, a PGA player makes that putt 50% of the time. So when a PGA player has an 8-foot putt and makes it, they gain a half stroke on the field. Their shots gain metric goes up a half stroke because they just beat out half of the competition. Okay, when they miss, they lose a stroke to the field. In other words, strokes gained is a metric that compares how good are you, the golfer, at every shot compared to the PGA. How if you're 120 yards away from the pin, okay, on a par 4, how do you finish up that hole, and how does that compare to the average people who are finishing up that hole? All right, so it is the most conclusive, holistic stat that golf has to offer. So let's talk about how he relates to this stat. Since January of 2022, so months before LIV started, again, June 2022 was when LIV started. So the season that LIV started, Scheffler has gained 575 strokes to the field. Okay, so to put it in perspective, Rory is second. Rory McIlroy in the strokes gained category is the second best golfer. You could just argue that he is the second best golfer when the metrics are considered on earth. And he has gained 100 less strokes than Scottie Scheffler to the field. Okay, that's domination, folks. Cantlay is fifth, 375. So while Rory is that much better than Cantlay, Scheffler is that much better than the second place of Rory. Only 4 players. Okay, then sorry. So this is a separate statistic. That's unheard of. That has, you could argue that maybe the gaps get smaller if more LIV guys are playing, and therefore the competition is more increased. I can see an argument for that, but I still think that's insane. And there's still very, very talented golfers who are playing in the PGA right now. So it's not a knock on them either. Okay. Scottie is only the 4th player to win the Masters twice by 27. These 3 guys were the others. Obviously, we know Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. Seve Ballesteros, apologies if I don't say that correctly. He was a Spanish golfer, and he did it. There's something else I was going to say about him, but I do now forget what I was going to say. But still, very impressive for Scottie to do that. Now, here are my general questions about him. And these just didn't really have a place on the presentation. This is more me just spitballing. Can the hot putting continue? He has switched putters and has actually been gaining strokes to the field. If you look at, there's a website called Data Golf, which tracks everything you could ever want about golf. It tracks. Before the last 3 or 4 events when he switched putters, when he was using his old putter at the beginning of this year, he was losing strokes putting to the field for the last 10 matches. And he's now starting to gain them. If you had to point out a weakness in Scottie Scheffler's game, it was his putting. And it's getting scary out there because Scottie is putting well. He's actually putting better than the baseline, than the field, than the average. And that's not good for his competition. So can that continue? If it continues, I think it's going to be scary for the PGA. My next question is Spieth 2.0. And I don't think Spieth's hype was quite as much as Scottie's. Let me take that back. I think Spieth's hype was as much as Scottie's, maybe even more. But Spieth's dominance, Spieth's metrics, I don't think were as strong as Scottie's. So I guess my fear would be that Scottie Scheffler becomes a Spieth 2.0. Everybody's talking about him. Everybody's hyping up. He's winning. And then all of a sudden something happens to his game and he just becomes the average golfer, which I would say Jordan Spieth is at this point, and then it has been for the last few years. So that is a worry that I have. The Grand Slam is also something that is interesting. I mean, he's young. He's 27 years old. He could golf feasibly, realistically, if he takes care of his body for the next 20 years. And probably golf at a high level for the next 20 years. We saw Tiger make the cut this year. I don't know how old Tiger is, but I would imagine he is older than 47 or pushing 47. You can fact check me on that. The point is, Scottie's career is just beginning. And we look at the Masters. He's obviously won twice. And a Grand Slam, if you don't know, is winning all of these events. Now, a true Grand Slam, which I learned from making this, was winning all 4 of these in the same calendar year, which is unheard of. Only Tiger got close, and he actually held the title for all of them at the same time, but he didn't win them all in the year. There was one year he won 2, and then the next year he won the 2 at the end, and then the next year started and he won the 2 at the beginning, and so he had all of the titles at once, but he didn't win them all in the same year. Anyway, he has a chance to do a true Grand Slam this year. Obviously, with the Masters being the first major, he's already won that. We'll see. Do I think it's reasonable? No. Statistically reasonable, no, but do I think it's possible given how he's played? Yes. PGA Championship, he's been top 10 every single time, besides the time he got cut. U.S. Open, he finishes 3rd last year. The Open Championship, he has not had good luck, tied for 8th. This is his best finish. So tons of time. I think, given what I know about Scottie, given what I've seen, if I had to make a prediction, I would say that Scottie wins a Grand Slam. He wins all of these. That is my guess. So I think my conclusion as we wrap this up is both can be true. Scottie's results are aided by competition playing for LIV, but his data and consistency speaks for itself. Yes, Scottie Scheffler is really that good. That is my consensus. And I know that, my conclusion, sorry. I know that there's more data. Somebody could make this video better and just include enormous amounts and piles of data that probably defend either one. But this is where I'm going to hang my hat. I do think LIV helps Scottie look more dominant, but I do think in a vacuum, Scottie Scheffler is that good. So he tees off in a little bit for the RBC Heritage. We'll see if he can win another event this year or continue his top 10 streak, top 25 streak. So best of luck to him. I hate hype. I typically am a hater. I'm okay with Scottie just because he's doing it with consistency. And he's proving me wrong at every turn, and he's fixed his putting. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you guys for coming by. Let me know in the comments you got any Scottie stories you'd like to share, any opinions about the matter. I'd be happy to hear it. So take care, and we will see you in the next video where I try to prove someone's worth is less than it is.